Hey guys, Tosin here with another Hunter guide. Although situational awareness is not limited to the Hunter class, obviously, I play a Hunter and my footage is Hunter stuff, so this is mostly going to pertain to things you can do as a Hunter to get an edge in an arena match. There are a lot of small things that you can do that will have a pretty big impact on the fight. So this video is to help you look out for little things like that that you can use on a regular basis. Also, sometimes your opponents will play differently than you're used to, and you will have to adapt and change your play. So I'll also show an example or two of that and what you can do to deal with it. This first important trick is something that a lot of hunters currently use, but way too many don't. Covering your traps against Shadow Priest is really important for keeping up pressure. You already have to deal with trying to land a trap in the first place when people try to eat them, which is frustrating enough, but having your trap instantly mass dispelled by a Shadow Priest when you actually do land the trap is quite obnoxious. The macro is simple, right there on the screen. It's nothing complicated at all. If you don't have this macro, I suggest making it and finding a bind for it. It's really handy. Now I'm going to play this clip slowly, and you will see I scatter trap the Holy Paladin as we're killing the mage. And at this point, the Holy Paladin doesn't have Trinket or Bubble left, so his only way out is a Mass Dispel from the Priest. And the Priest is going to try to Mass Dispel him, but he's going to dispel the Hunter's Mark instead. This leaves the Paladin in a full trap, so he can freely kill his mage. Although the mage was so low he probably would have died there anyway, it's still an incredibly handy trick to use all the time when there's a Shadow Priest present. Of course, Hunter's Mark isn't the only way to protect your trap from being mass dispelled. You could also silence or use some sort of stun from one of your teammates on the Shadow Priest when the trap lands, but if you don't have one of those available, Hunter's Mark is the next best thing. Now this next clip is just a simple mistake on my part. I was aware of my scatter trap being on diminishing returns. Notice I scatter trap the Paladin and Hunter's Mark it, but he does trinket it. So since we have the mage low, I'm going to readiness and try to scatter trap him a second time in a row. But I knew that my scatter shot would only last 2 seconds, and that's risky because oftentimes, as you see, you won't land the trap because they can move out of the way faster. So something that I should have done in this situation would have been to concussive shot the Paladin and then scatter him, because this way, even if the scatter shot breaks 2 seconds earlier because of diminishing returns, he can't easily walk away from it. And of course, concussive shot trapping is another solution to that problem without even using the scatter shot, but it's safer to use a diminished scatter and the concussive shot together, because that's pretty guaranteed that you'll land the trap in that case. Now this next clip is an example of focused concussive shot use. It's a great tool when you see that the enemy's healer, for instance, is out of position, out of line of sight of his teammate that he's trying to heal. You can keep him out of his teammate's line of sight and unable to heal if you just focus concussive shot him. Notice the mage is almost dead and he's out of line of sight of his paladin. The mage is afraid to run to his paladin's line of sight because he's afraid of my damage. He's evocating behind the pillar for now, but he's hoping that his paladin is going to run into his line of sight and then heal him after he comes out of my CC. So this positioning problem on their part is great for us and terrible for them, and I'd like to keep it that way. So I focus concussive shot the paladin so he can't run at full speed to heal his teammate around the pillar. Although the Paladin does eventually make it to the mage's line of sight, it gives my DK more time to pound on the mage and stack necrotic strikes before he can receive heals. And 1 or 2 seconds of healing goes a long way with the Holy Paladin. So I suggest making a focused concussive shot macro. It's just as simple as the Hunter's Mark macro, and use it whenever you see enemies out of position like this. Also note that if you are using the concussive shot glyph, which I highly recommend, it counters the priest's 4-piece bonus that lets them move freely for 4 seconds whenever they shield themselves. Concussive shot will counter it and make them run at half speed anyway, and this also works against ghost wolfing shamans. Normally the ghost wolf ability suppresses snares, but concussive shot counters that and will make them go 50% speed no matter what. Now here's another example, except it's me failing to concussive shot him out of line of sight. Notice how the Warlock is getting extremely low, extremely fast, and the Shaman of course is going to trinket my trap and is going to heal his Warlock who just ported out of line of sight. So what I should have done here is focus conk shot the Shaman to slow him down so he can't run to heal his Warlock nearly as fast. Now imagine if he was running at half speed. Do you think he'd make it on time to heal that Warlock before he dies? In this situation it didn't matter in particular because the Warlock dies anyway. But imagine if the Shaman was slow there and he wasn't healing the Warlock for an extra 2 or 3 seconds. That's as good as, almost as good as a scatter shot or a silencing shot. So definitely try to be aware of enemy positioning so you can punish them for their bad positioning at times. Now another thing you have to look out for is Unholy Death Knight's ability called Unholy Frenzy. It's a buff that they can put on themselves or one of their teammates, and what it does is, ignore the buff part, it's just haste. That's not what's important though. What's important is, every 3 seconds it deals damage to whoever has the buff. So a lot of the time, Unholy Death Knights will give this buff to their healer to break them out of your scatter traps. So what can we do about it? Well, we can Trank Shot it. Trank Shot will dispel 1 Enrage or 1 magic effect, as you know, so having a focused Trank Shot macro is very important, but you can only dispel it if you have the situational awareness to notice that it's been placed on the person you scatter trapped, and Trank Shot it before it actually breaks the trap. So now I'm going to play the clip, and you'll notice I'm going to scatter trap the paladin, and as you see, right when the trap lands, he gives his healer the buff. So simply because I'm aware that Unholy Death Knights use this strategy already, I'm expecting this, so the second I see that Unholy Frenzy icon, I turn and use my focused Trank Shot macro and dispel it instantly before it breaks the trap. This is extremely beneficial to your team because not only did you prevent the trap from being broken for free, but usually they don't notice that you Trank Shotted off the buff until a few seconds later, and by then they're like, I don't want to trinket, 3 seconds left of a trap, I'll just wait, and then you end up getting them further behind because of it. As you can see, we get the hunter extremely low by the time his paladin comes out of that first trap. So as you can see, sometimes a little situational awareness can go a long way. Now, at the beginning of the video, I did mention that sometimes your opponents will do things that will force you to change how you play and adapt to the situation in order to win, or at least make the fight easier. Here's a fight against a Ret Paladin, Holy Paladin Warrior Cleave team that the Warrior is constantly trying to intervene and eat my traps, and he is succeeding at the beginning, so I have to adapt in order to land traps successfully. Alright, now I'm going to start up the clip. I believe we start on the Ret Paladin, and I'm going to go for a scatter trap on the Holy Paladin right off the bat. Now watch, the Warrior instantly intervenes it and eats the trap. This is a pain. This is just obnoxious on all sorts of levels. When you can't land your scatter traps successfully, it's going to make it so much harder for you to land a kill, especially against Holy Paladins because their heals are so potent. The only reason we got this Ret Paladin low into bubble is because we used Hammer of Justice and Strangulate very early, and got a lot of necrotic stacked up and stuff. But Hodge and Strangulate are fairly long cooldowns, so you can't really rely on them. Skipping ahead in the fight just a little bit, as you can see I'm going for another scatter trap, and what happens? Yep, the Warrior intervenes and eats it. Okay, so now he's done it 2 times in a row, so this tells me that he's going to probably continue to do it. So if I want to land any traps at all, I'm going to have to adapt. I have to change what I'm doing. And the reason this falls in the situational awareness category is a lot of people don't notice when their traps are being eaten, so it's very important to notice enemies' positioning and see what is screwing up your traps. A lot of the time somebody will scatter and launch the trap and then just forget about it and just hope it lands. Don't do that. If you're aware of the problem, you can fix the problem a lot of the time. Now if you've seen my latest normal arena video that I put on Warcraft movies, labeled Rykinia 2, then you'll know about conch trapping by now. I had to start doing this because as time went on, more and more people became more aware of scatter trapping and how easy it is to screw up. So conch trapping is a really good solution against teams that are constantly eating your traps. I suggest you try it. It takes practice and you won't always land them, but it's better than never landing them, right? So I am aware now that this Warrior is on guard for traps. So anytime I scatter, and probably anytime I monkey stun the Paladin, this Warrior's probably going to run up and try to eat the trap. But if I concussive shot the Paladin, he's not going to expect a trap out of it, so this is my way of adapting. So I'm going to concussive shot the Paladin, and then I'm going to drop a trap at my feet. He doesn't see it coming, and he was mid-cast. Now, he was standing still casting at the time anyway, but the thing is some players will see you drop a trap, and they will try to run away, but so if they're slowed, they often can't get away in time. As you can see, because I finally landed a trap, we finally get some counter pressure out, and we Hodge the Paladin also, and that forces him to bubble. But the fight's not over yet, and I'm very aware that that Warrior still wants to try and intervene all of my scatter traps from now on. So I'm going to fake him out this time. I'm going to scatter the Paladin and pretend I'm going to trap, but I'm not actually going to use my trap cooldown yet. This was just to bait the Warrior off of my DK, make him dump his rage switching to defensive stance and just waste time. Now this is very important to pay attention to. Intervene doesn't just move the Warrior to the target, it also absorbs the next physical attack. So as you can see, the Paladin still has the Intervene buff. This means if I try to focus conch shot him, it'll conch shot the Warrior instead. So you also have to be aware of that. Since I've dealt with this before, I'm going to use focus Trank Shot instead to eat the absorb, and then I'm going to focus conch shot him. So there's the focus Trank Shot, the Intervene charge is gone, and then I focus conch shot and silence the Paladin. Then I'm going to launch a trap on him, and he's going to eat this full trap now. And because I landed that full trap, this helps us land a kill. Now imagine if I kept doing what I was doing, my typical scatter trap routine, and I didn't adapt. I wouldn't have landed any of those traps, and we most likely would have lost. Anyway guys, that's it for this guide. I hope you learned something. Remember to keep an eye out for every little advantage you can get. As usual, thanks for watching, and peace out.